you'll recite the pledge with me, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you'll bow with me. Heavenly Father, thank you for this evening. Thank you for council members being here. Thank you for our community that participate in this meeting. I just ask for your wisdom and guidance as we conduct business tonight. Pray for protection on all those that are out there serving, and for our sheriff's department, our firemen, all the first responders. Give us wisdom, give our elected officials wisdom in all their duties, and just pray that you'll guide us in this season that we rejoice in our Savior's birth. And we ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. First order of business is the minutes from November 2nd meeting. Everybody have a chance to review those, and any corrections or revisions to that anybody saw? If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Transfers. Got several transfers. Let's just go through these one at a time, since we're getting towards the end of the year. And what I'd like to do is just ask, I think surveyor's up first. You want to come forward? And explain to council what you're doing on transfers and why there's monies left in some of these accounts to be transferred. It's a question that we'll ask for everyone.
Need to transfer into the part-time line item, the clerical assistant. The line item, typically I have asked last several years at council at budget time to increase that. That has typically been turned down. With COVID, there hasn't been as much travel, so we had money left over in travel and lodging. We have not done any public hearings this year for raising maintenance funds or having any reconstruction hearings, so we had printing and advertising money left over, and the general repairs, our equipment, we just haven't had a lot of breakdowns in printers and copiers and that sort of thing. So,
Okay. I appreciate the explanation.
any questions?
Jared, is a clerical assistant, is that a full-time, part-time job?
No, it's just a part-time. That is to basically cover when Diana is off for vacation, sick days, whatever. Up until I think last year, we were the lowest paying in the courthouse as far as like part-time.
Part-time employees?
So we tried to raise that. One of the ladies, the lady that works for us, also works for the treasurer's office part-time. So try to make it competitive so that they're not taking a penalty to work for us. And
So something we ought to keep in
as
mind.
Diana has more time in, she gets more vacation. So
Has this been kind of a trend? Has this past couple of years been?
Yeah,
I think
I didn't dig up my.
probably the last 5 years. At the end of the year, I've had.
At the end of the year, had to transfer over that.
Into-
So it is an ongoing, okay,
Yeah.
ongoing problem,
That's why I typically ask
Yeah.
every year to budget more for it. But
okay.
Yeah, don't forget to remind us this next year. All right. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jared.
Thanks, Jim.
I don't know if there are any commissioners here. I don't see any.
Would you like me to answer that?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
We do have a little extra money in the retirement line, and when we budget that based on what everyone asks for, before we approve salaries. So there was just some extra in that, and moved it into group health insurance, attorney fees. We've had a lot going on this year, legal ads and notices as well, and burial of soldiers, more deaths, and miscellaneous services and charges.
So these weren't necessarily zeroed out then, they were just, you're just building them up, I mean, just to get us through the rest of the year?
Yes.
So, okay, gotcha.
Okay, area plan is on here next. Who do we have here from their area plan? Okay, do you know what they're doing there?
some equipment, some
Yeah.
furniture and stuff.
And he had office equipment of 8,000.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
For the comprehensive plan update.
You know what the furniture was?
Office furniture, transfer. New desks.
Well, we could put that one off until the 22nd, have him come in and explain.
Okay.
Bobby, custodian? Edie?
Just the morning. I just have transfer from utilities, and that's basically because we had a mild year the year before. And because we're doing one side of the fourth floor of the carpet, the other side is just as bad. And if we can get it transferred, then we could get both pretty much done out of this year's funds. That would free that up for next year for another area that's in need of it. So that's what I'm asking for, carpet repairs and cement repairs here at the annex building. And we were planning on getting it done this year, but with jobs and work and people and supplies, it's hard to get the stuff as we need it. So things have just been pushed back to where it's going to have to be done in 2022. And so I'd like to move the money that was left for that over and then use the money from the leftover utilities to help with the carpet replacements in the 2 offices on the 4th floor.
All right. Thank you, Bob.
Sounds reasonable. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Y'all done with me asking?
Yep, yeah. You're welcome to stick around, but you guys don't have to if you're done your transfers. Superior Court. Anybody here from Superior Court? Guess we'll ask them to come on the 22nd as well. Let's see. Lit Public Safety.
With public safety, medical expense to utilities. We had a shortage of funds in the utility line.
Sure.
She pretty much said it. We have a shortage in utilities and some extras left over in medical, so we're trying to utilize the funds that are there.
Pay your utility bills.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'd like to keep the lights on out there.
Understand.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
So,
Maybe it'd make people not want to come.
Yeah.
we can turn the no vacancy sign off. So.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. We'll be right back to you here in a minute.
Okay.
Highway.
Oh,
Good evening.
Hi.
Sean would have been here, but unfortunately he's feeling under the weather now, so we're just kind of
You
trading
gave it to him.
who's not feeling good, so he had to cover for me yesterday at Commissioners, so. Under the highway maintenance and repair, if I recall, what we're doing is we're trying to set up part of the funding for our Bridge 99. We're having, with this year, with the increase in gas taxes, there's additional MVH funds, and so we're looking at trying to meet our minimum 50% expense on eligible accounts. And so what we're doing is trying to find places to put that. Unfortunately, with hot mix, we weren't able to do a hot mix project this year. That created a pinch for us. So what we're doing is pulling from some eligible funds that we have some excess. I think it was retirement, and there were 3 other places in there that we were pulling from to fund the Bridge 99 local match from MVH. It was something we went to the commissioners for. They approved that. We're essentially creating a local match. There's state money of about 75% to finance the local match for that Bridge 99. That's the one.
Which one?
That's the one on Hoosier Highway we just opened up. So that project, so we're essentially trying to pay that from eligible NVH funds. That helps us meet that 50% minimum spend in 2021. So
Nate,
that's the reason for it. It's just kind of.
What would have been the game plan if the overages weren't there to meet the grant?
We would have had to done an additional from MVH to try to do that. So otherwise, we would have been probably coming up short, or we would have been looking at the hours that the guys served. Right now, we kind of hold a place mark as far as what the guys serve as far as eligible work for MVH. So when they're doing certain activities, it's MVH eligible or not. So we would have had to go through every time card to make sure we met that minimum. So rather than create the office expense and time to try to go through every time to meet that, this was kind of our better effort. It wasn't so much the issue, because we would have paid it out of lit. It just was the fact that we needed to meet this MVH number. So this was kind of a alternate move, so it's called an audible, I guess, is kind of the best way to explain it for the funding for that.
Of the three categories, though, that you're over, retirement, social security, and group health,
Yes.
it seems like three categories would be hard to be over as much as you are. Is there a certain reason why they're over that much that you can pull from them?
I don't have the answer to why they're over
Okay.
that far. That would have been something that Josh would have established, or
And it
Lisa.
could be that they didn't have as much overtime.
Is that what probably is overtime? Or fewer employees too, maybe?
Well, we were short a couple
Employees, which
people.
could be-
and
I know that could be a factor
we
too,
were
but
without a superintendent for
Okay.
6 months.
there's just
so
three
a
important
couple-
areas that I was making
Yeah.
sure.
Well,
So-
I think on health insurance, I think because the budget is done in the summer, I think we base
Right.
that in case there's an increase, and there was not an increase. So I think that
I was getting ready to
helped
ask
a
that, 'cause I know
lot.
health insurance premiums are coming in now, so we got
Why
pretty
don't-
good. Okay.
I don't know about now, but last
Yeah.
year, there was not an
Yeah,
increase
okay.
for this year, so that helped.
So this year, did we just, I don't want to get in a road conversation, did we do no hot mix?
There wasn't a hot mix project this
Surfacing
year.
at all
Yep.
this year.
And that came about because of the vacancy in the superintendent.
Okay.
So that was something that the superintendent usually was the one that established those, and by not having one for the time, and then the transition between Kim and then back to not again, that just created a shortfall, and I didn't take it upon myself to create that project. So that's why that got left out. And then by the time we identified projects, bidders were not bidding work. So we actually identified work when he came on in like August, but they were all booked to the end of the year. So I got a number for a project. They said, we'll do it next year. So unfortunate. So we could try to create the bid and encumber it or do something like that, but it really doesn't meet the needs for us. So.
Okay. Appreciate the explanations.
Yep, it's all right. Certainly don't want to have to do something like that. It's, like I said, it really wasn't audible. It was called late in the game when Lisa and Sean and I met to try to identify what alternatives we had to meet that. We're very close, it's just unfortunate situation there. Thank you.
All right, community corrections.
How's everyone doing today?
Good.
Good.
We are, this is in the grant funds that we have from the state. This is going out of the insurance into retirement. Maria told us we were off 2,200 in retirement. After we submitted this, she didn't calculate and was 700 off, so she told us to put another one in. I believe that's coming at the next meeting.
Okay.
And that's with the grant funds. The way they were doing it previously, we were never quite sure what the insurance rise might be or retirement, because right now I've got some folks that are getting to the point of retirement. So, and I know this fall my daughter got a job, so she's off my insurance. So, we have things like that happening with shifts from not needing as much as we thought.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. CASA grant. Hi, Jenny.
Okay, I'm new to this, but I am requesting that we just transfer $200 from the transportation line to the transportation line from the advertising line. We're a new program, and I underestimated how much travel we'd be doing with our children in need of services being placed in foster or relative care placement as far north as Steuben County and as far south as Muncie. So our volunteers are traveling farther than I thought they would be, and so we just need a little bit more money in that line. So hopefully next year we'll make that.
On our paperwork, it says you're putting it into dues and subscriptions. don't know what happened there.
Oops, well,
For
I,
legal
Transportation.
aspects.
yeah, I had asked for transportation, so I don't know if my letter was written improperly or something, but that was a request, so I'm sure it was my fault.
So just get an update for the 22nd, don't you?
Yep.
You don't have to have her come back.
Come
That's
back?
good. No, you don't need to.
Oh, okay,
I don't think so, Steve, do you?
No.
sorry,
But we'll
Lisa.
just get the.
No, I appreciate it.
No,
And also,
good explanation.
Lisa's been wonderful to work with, because this is the first time I've ever had a budget, and even though it's not much money,
Yeah.
it's all new to me. So thank you for all your help.
That's
and
why
I'm
we give you a
sorry
small
about
one
that.
to work with.
Yeah.
Sorry, pardon me?
That's why you have a small one to work with. at the start.
Well, if it's a good thing.
All right,
So I
thanks.
apologize.
No, you're good. Thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
you don't have to stick around unless you'd like to.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I think at this point, what I would do is ask for a motion on the ones that were here, and then we'll put those other ones off until the 22nd. Is that when we meet, 22nd? So put off the commissioners and Superior Court. Is that it?
Commissioners, area plan.
And CASA.
No, just have to.
Yeah, okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the transfers as presented, except for the commissioners, the Superior Court, and the CASA grant that will be presented at the 22nd.
Okay, we have a motion there, a second?
I'll second.
Second?
Just real quick though, is area plan in that also?
Yeah, she said commissioners, but it's area plan instead of
Yeah.
commissioners.
Oh.
right?
Well, it's commissioners and area plan.
Okay,
No,
Or
no.
area
No, the
plan,
commission.
Okay,
Did
okay.
explain that.
She explained that one.
yeah, it's area plan, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0. Okay, now we have a couple additionals. I think that's bridges, Nate?
These are a little bit easier.
Okay.
Additionals for this is essentially creating a bridge fund for federal aid bridge number 51, that's County Road 300 West. That's one of our federal aid bridge projects that we were awarded. We're essentially just creating the fund and appropriating that. It's one of the reimbursable accounts for us, so we're essentially just setting up all the money that's in the PE fund for that. We've actually started to incur some of the expenses out of the Cume Bridge Fund, so what we're doing is just moving the money from Cume Bridge into its standalone fund for federal aid for that one. And
So that's where this additional's coming from?
that's what the additional is. It's essentially, we're just creating the account for that federal aid account project,
Are
so.
both of these front coming from a CUNY? I'm not trying to get ahead of
So
you.
this one, you've got just Bridge 51 here on the agenda. Is that the only one that we have?
No, there's also the
There's
2020-01 community crossing.
Oh, yes, and that's just,
99.
so, and that one won't be coming from Cume Bridge, that'll be coming from Lit.
Okay.
So we'll be appropriating that from Lit for that account, so that'll be the local match, I'm sorry, so yes. So that's the other one, and that's Bridge 121, that's on 600 East, northeast of Toxin. So,
This 99?
oh, is that one
That's what it says,
99?
99.
I'm sorry.
That's the one we
Yes, it's
just-
Bridge 99.
I've got them, I'm trying
Yeah,
to
yeah,
guess which
51.
number that one is, so
99.
that one's 99, that's the one we just did the
Yeah,
we just did the
transfer.
transfer, yeah.
That's what
why
that
I
is,
was-
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's on me, so that's my
Okay.
confusion. Thank you. Lisa's laughing at me. Because we got two other things we're gonna be messing with for next month, so.
All right, any questions? for Nate? All right,
No.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve. Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
It wouldn't be so complicated if we weren't doing so much, so.
All right. All right, thanks. Sheriff, you're up.
As of today, we have 69 inmates in jail. 22 of those are pretrial superior, 23 are pretrial circuit, 10 F6, and 7 DOC. I've also turned in a monthly activity report for November. Obviously, the activity was definitely up in November. If you look at the number of inmates booked compared to last year, we went from 53 last year to 94 in this last month. So a lot of arrests made, a lot of warrants served and those type of things in the month of November. So that has kept us on our toes, kept our jail very busy in lieu of everything else that's going on. Just a quick update. We are still in the works with an interlocal agreement that between the city and the county as far as the combined dispatch thing that has been going back and forth between the city and county attorneys as far as making some minor changes to that. It'll be something that comes forth in the future here, so that is still in the works. Construction update, they're in full force right now. Our parking lot's a mess right now, so they are getting ready to pour footers for the addition portion, the small addition portion as far as the Sally Port, and the portion that's adding on to the intake area is all dug out. They told me they're pouring all the footers tomorrow for that, so that's in full gear. Part of the water conservation stuff is all complete and in place. They've done that as well. We've been meeting bi-weekly. One of the commissioners is attending that as well. We have bi-weekly meetings, as I said, with them to stay on track with the schedule. Everything's going pretty good right now. I think some of the things that are being pushed off into the springtime just because of materials or lack of, as far as when they can get them. So, but everything's going good there. Just a little side note I brought to the commissioners, we finally solved a painstakingly issue with a water leak that we've had. It was under one of our cell blocks, under a foot of concrete. We had a hot water leak under the ground. We just got that fixed finally last week. So that wasn't an easy job. They had to cut concrete, and as you can imagine, but if I remember right from Monday, the day after we fixed it, we did a report from the city on our water consumption, and just in an hour, we were using, prior to the fix, we were using about 1,300 gallons of water per hour. And when that got fixed, it went down to like 100 or less. So you can imagine.
Your utility bills should go down a little bit.
Yeah. So that money I needed for utilities, it definitely did probably change that.
You need your slab.
I mean, I need that next year.
But that did cause a lot of issues in that one side of our cells as far as hot water. We had been battling, trying to figure out why we couldn't get hot water through those at least that one particular cell block. So that was a big headache that's taken care of as far as that. So.
So there's an underground river underneath the jail.
Yes, yeah. Hopefully there's no sinkhole, as the commissioner said. After this is all done, we don't fall into a big pit. So, lastly, the only thing I wanted to bring before the council, I did this last year. I don't mean to make this a yearly thing, but due to COVID, staffing, and everything else, I'm before the next commissioners meeting, I'm going to ask them to do an ordinance allowing us to pay staff out for unused personal days and holidays. We were in this boat last year as far as staff shortages. Currently, I still need to hire an additional 3 jailers to replace open positions. As of today, I have 4 employees out with COVID, all from the jail. So it's hard for our people to take days off. We got people working their days off, not being able to use a lot of holidays and those type of things. So last year we drafted an ordinance that, because the handbook doesn't allow for that, you and the commissioners approved that last year for me to be able to do it. I'm not asking for any additional money. Obviously, with the shortages, I have the money and the salaries to be able to pay them out for them. I don't like to see people that work that hard, work their days off, lose those days at the beginning of the year. So I have the funds, I can pay it. I would just, I guess, ask for council's approval. If the commissioners approve it on the next commissioners meeting, the county attorney drafted up an ordinance for me already to do that. So I just ask for your support in allowing me to do that, because I will then put in for an encumbrance and pay it out in January of 2022, correct?
Right, and we will have to update the salary ordinance.
Which Lisa loves me for, so.
So do we need a motion for that then?
Yes.
Okay.
We get it tonight or when it's?
No, you can do it in the next one.
Next meeting.
We'll do it then.
Okay, yeah, I didn't realize there was 2 this month until. earlier when you said something, so. But if you see that encumbrance, we're trying to calculate out the number of holidays and personal days that we want to pay out. It's mostly jail. I think only 2 deputies would be on that list. But we'll have an exact dollar amount and put that in for the encumbrance with the report so that you can see that, so.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't have anything unless anybody's got any questions.
Nope.
Okay.
Thanks for the updates.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Marlene, you're up.
Get your jammies on before I
That's
get mine
right.
on. We've already discussed that. Yes, okay. Well, good evening. Hopefully mine is just quick and won't take too much time. In the local health maintenance budget, again, that's an extra budget that we get since 1988 from tobacco settlement funds. We've got $20,000 line item in there for a part-time nurse. As you all know, we've had a hard time filling a nurse position in the department. We have a full-time nurse right now as the public health nurse, but we could use the extra help now, especially with COVID, but we are asking that line item be changed to a medical assistant. We currently have a medical assistant as a contract employee for COVID, hired out of the COVID grant. It is going to be expiring here soon. The monies are dwindling down in that account. It was only supposed to go until like June 30th, but they allowed us to continue using that money from the state. And we have continued to pay persons for vaccinations and for testing out of that grant. So, but we would move that medical assistant that we're using there into a part-time position for the health department to fill basically what we was hoping for a public health nurse. So in the beginning, and we do this in January with the new 2022 budget. We are not asking for it to take effect now, but it would be for the 2022 budget. That person, should COVID ever go away, we would definitely move them into the department in order to take things, do jobs there. So I'm just asking for that line item to be changed to a medical assistant outside of the public health nurse, and whether or not you're going to require a job description for that position, since it will be a part-time position, or, and then we need to determine a salary, hourly wage.
So you just want the approval for the position tonight? Because we don't have that job description or hourly wage.
Basically, I'm wanting the approval of the line item to be approved to a medical assistant.
Yes.
And then the
In the
medical.
2022 budget.
In the 2022 budget, yes. But we've got to move forward with doing something here soon, and I didn't want to be behind the 8 ball on trying to get some approval happening with that, so. And basically, a part-time nurse, a medical assistant and part-time nurse would be capable of doing the same things. I mean, they can give, with the certifications that they would have, they can do the vaccines, they can do the testing, and the childhood immunizations. There would be no issues there with qualifications between that and like an LPN to a certain degree. It's a different degree, yes, don't get me wrong. But a job description for a part-time person, a public health nurse we've had in place, and it's just a different title, basically.
So right now it's called clerical?
No, it's called a part-time nurse position. We've just not filled it.
Make it
clerical.
Make it a medical assistant,
medical assistant.
yes.
Yeah, I have no problem with
That
that.
sounds like a smart move.
Yeah.
It gets somebody in the seat,
Yes,
so, yeah,
okay.
So I need a motion from council.
so moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Right.
we
Thank
have,
you.
we have that cleared up.
Thank you.
In the salary ordinance for the nurse, they're paid between $20 and $25. So I'll need the same thing for the medical assistant if you're gonna pay them above $12.17 an hour.
Right, and we will definitely have to do that.
Yeah,
And so currently you're paying 20.
As a contract employee, she's being paid 20, so no taxes are taken out of that. There's no benefits. There's also no limit on hours as a contract employee, which has been great through COVID. And we've not worked them to death, but they have had some longer hours. So we could be cutting off part of our fingers here by moving it into, but it's better for us to have her as a part-time employee and work her into the department for what we need long-term. Like I said, hopefully COVID won't be
It's not going away
holding us by
anytime
the
quickly.
tail
but-
here. Yeah, no, it's not gone. As you all know, we've turned red this week, and our positivity has went up considerably. We're hearing from not only Scott at the jail, but from a lot of employers right now, and the schools are very inundated with positivities. And so our testing continues on Monday mornings. We had more positives than negatives for the past 2 weeks, so it wasn't a surprise to me that we got the Reds clarification. And then on Monday afternoons, we're doing vaccines. Those continue to be full schedules as well. Wednesday, full schedules. I think we have slots for 132 vaccines on Wednesday, and we typically are giving past that amount of vaccines with a few walk-ins that we get, or them bringing significant others or whatever the case may be. And then on Thursdays, we do a full day too. So Monday, if you'll recall Monday's weather, 40-mile-an-hour winds, our girls was in the parking lot and was doing testing in the cars. So.
A question on the medical assistant. You said they would be giving vaccinations and stuff. So what type of training would those types of people have? Or
There's a
who they're
medical assistant
Yeah.
certification, actually, and the person that we have now has been in a doctor's office and been in those settings, so.
So they do vaccinations and those types of
Yes,
things?
yeah. In fact, she's been working with us for COVID from basically the beginning of us being able, I'm going to say by March probably of last year. Yeah, so.
Okay, I think we're
Okay.
all set for now.
All right.
All right, thanks, Marlon.
When we set the salary ordinance?
Lisa's got a question on the, are we,
I don't know, are we gonna?
Well,
wait
when do we
to
set the salary ordinance for?
Well, we'll have to we're
Right.
gonna redo the salary ordinance for.
It starts in
Scott.
January, right?
Yeah,
yes.
So we do all those the 1st of January, don't we? Is that,
we've already adopted the
Oh,
salary
have we?
ordinance for
Yeah.
2022.
so we'd have to,
I mean, theoretically, she could start after the 17th of December and be January's payroll. So it just depends on when she wants her to start and when she wants to.
I was gonna use up all the money I could from the COVID, well, and there'll still be some long-term from that, but hopefully we'll get some more people to test that will, in testing, doing the testing, that will pay as a contract employee.
so you need the help now then, obviously.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, she's gonna be here, but like I said, we just need to move it over into that 2022 budget and get something more substantial in the, yes.
I assume when you said she, it would be hiring the same person that's been doing it and
Yes,
paying out
yes,
COVID.
yeah, and the monies that we've been paying her, we'll hire a contract to help with testing, because right now, there's not a whole lot of people that wants to do testing.
Yeah.
Imagine that. But we have been paying one other person as a tester. She just is there for testing on Mondays and Wednesdays, so. But we've lost her because she's taken a full-time job, so we won't be having that position. So one person to do the number of tests that we have, and we're talking, Monday morning, I think we had in the neighborhood of 40 or 50 tests. So that's in and out of the building, coming back in, running the test, notifications, and so on and so forth.
So Marlene, are you saying you have enough money right now to get to the end of the year with her? And then we start her January, you want to start her December 17th?
I have enough money to get to the end of the year with her.
Okay.
And I will have some left over from that grant in order to start paying a contract employee to continue the testing.
So we're good in our January meeting doing the ordinance?
Yes, I think
Okay.
so, yes,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, we just want to make sure you got the help
Yep,
when you need it.
yep. I just want to move forward with being able to hire
Right.
and know where I'm at
That's fair.
as far as the budget
Yeah,
goes.
we're good.
Yep.
Okay.
Good?
Yep.
Thanks,
Okay.
Molly.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Rick and Trent, you're up.
Good evening.
Evening.
Good evening.
You guys pass out here.
Sounds like they do some babysitting.
Thank you.
Pass it down, please. Thank you.
So this is easier than your babysitting?
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you ever do some
You know
babysitting?
what? She was actually pretty good. She did not fuss with
This
me.
is a lot
You should've
harder
brought
than-
her.
I thought that's what you were planning on doing.
So I'm
Get
just
her
a
classes
4-month-old.
started
She's
for sure.
puckering. If I go get if I kiss her hand too loud, she gets spooked. So tonight was pretty sweet. So yeah. Well, wanted to bring to you just a brief update of where we are financially here, EMS and Foundation. So I've updated the memo that I sent out, that I dropped off last year. Let's just start at item 5, basically 1 through 4, just sort of give you the structure. We've been through that, unless anybody has any questions. Foundation and the board, each by the bylaws, have 2 county representatives, the president and of the commissioners and president of the council, or their stand-ins, and we basically had some designees the last few years. Currently, Blake Gerber is on our board, as he took Kevin's place once Kevin left our the office. County representatives we currently have, the official one is Seth right now, but Todd is also on. Todd basically was elected as an at-large. So we do have plenty of representation of county government on our 2 boards. Financially, the EMS averages 8 runs a day. That's up a little bit. I think Rick said it went up during the COVID time and has sort of stayed up there. Of those runs, 2/3 are chargeable, so 1 out of every 3 times the truck goes out, nothing's going to get billed for various reasons. Of those chargeable runs, 59% are Medicare, 17% Medicaid, for which significant discounts are mandated. They just kind of pay what they're going to pay. As a result, we collect about 34% of what we charge, but that is up from 29% a year ago. We have approximately $621 of revenue per run, and that's up $565 from a year ago, just probably due to just some payer mix. Item 6E, the EMS loses about $334 per run this past year. That's down from $370 a year ago. So there's some good things happening in that regard. I guess traditionally a significant amount of the overhead is borne by the hospitals in other counties in which the EMS services are based in those hospitals. But as a not-for-profit, we bear that overhead ourselves, billing costs, liability, insurance, health insurance, etc. So we all know how expensive that gets. The EMS in Wells County maintains 3 locations, Ossian, Bluffton, and Chester Township, obviously to provide timely response to the outlying areas of the county. It's a long way from the central part of the county down to Jackson Township, and so that's why the decision was made years ago. As is the common theme when we talk employees, the labor market is extremely tight, and so the wage base continues to rise. I think Rick has just found that we just have not found a lot of applicants, and there's demand for those applicants, so there's always that pressure. You've got to compete. You've got to compete with the other employers in the area. So. Number 7, as a result, the nature of the EMS business, surrounding counties will contribute a significant amount each year from their county budgets to support the service. Recently, a neighboring county pays around $420,000 a year to a local hospital to manage the EMS services for the county. While it was the original intent to use only investment earnings to supplement the financial needs of the EMS, the economic realities have required dipping into that principle. That's why we started petitioning the council back in 2017 for supplemental funding. Annual depletion, it's average, what we're computing to be about $185,000 a year. That's a little higher than $130,000 that we reported last year, just primarily due to some assumptions. And it can be a very subjective calculation over 21 years with the variations in the market. But it's anywhere between $138,000 and $185,000 over the 21-year period. depending whether you want to use assumed percentages or actual numbers. And so I can share that in just a bit. The annual support that the foundation provides the EMS each year is around $515,000 over our 21-year history. We expect that support need to rise from $500,000 to $700,000 regularly in coming years. Again, primarily due to employee costs. Our foundational longevity study projects about 38 years until total depletion of the foundation without any county assistance, based on our expected earnings over a shrinking endowment. So 13. I understand, our requests have been here, and I'm not sure what is official, but we've heard the number $100,000 starting in 2022. So that's amazing. Let me go through the longevity here, but that $100,000 is going to go a long way to support it. It may not be the final number, but it's a good start. So if you look at the third page, I presented this last year. We received roughly $9.2 million after we settled up some final costs. This basically is cash and equipment that we received from the county and the county hospital when it's sold. Over the years, we've earned $3.8 million interest and dividends and $6.3 million in appreciation. We've spent about $1.5 million on operating costs. That would be legal, that would be investment costs, accounting fees, insurance, things along that line that's required. We have transferred to the EMS in cash and property $11 million. We basically are going to claw back the EMS assets at book value if something ever happens. That basically leaves us with net grants to the EMS over 21 years of $10 million. Our current value, residual value at June 30, $7.1 million. Okay, the initial endowment plus additions, that $9.2 million number above. If you take the depletion, A, 9.2 minus D, the residual value, we have depleted $2.1 million since 2000. That's about $101,000 a year. We've averaged about $515 of support every year. That's the C divided by E, 10.8 million divided by 21. Okay. Longevity, simple math, basically 71 years. Okay. That's a simple computation. Is that shown? That is shown in there. Okay, great. Did some looking, talked to our money manager, and he said, you know what, when we do retirement projection planning, we count on about 4.4% year in, year out. You guys are averaging about 7%. That's about a 2.6 depletion per year. 2.6% depletion per year. If you divide, basically, if you're going to bleed out 2.6 per year over 100 years, we basically have about 38 years on a percentage basis. Make sense? So if we take a look at the depletion average, D times G, D would be our residual value, losing 2.6 per year. That gets us to where we are at 185 is our average depletion based on investment earnings. If we were to make this endowment last for 100 years, we're taking our 7.1 million divided by 100. That allows us to lose $71,000 a year. So to bridge that gap between what our percentage depletion's been at 185 and what we were allowed at 71, that kind of gives us about $114,000 is the supplemental support we need to extend this. Good news, we've been doing better than 4.4%. We've been doing quite a bit better than 4.4%, so that's a conservative number.
So that 100 that county provided for this next year, that's right in the ballpark.
That's
what
going
you're looking for.
That's going to go a long way
Yeah.
for us. Yeah, it really will.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you very much. Appreciate that commitment. So that is kind of where we are. Rick, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Questions for me? Anybody, anything?
So out of the 3 ambulances that you guys run, and the 8 runs average per day, what's the average per I assume the one in Bluffton is used the most.
Right, roughly 67% of our runs come out of the Bluffton area.
Yeah.
And the next roughly 20% or so is going to be Ossian, and Southern Wells is a very small amount. Where the Southern Wells truck comes into play most often is when both Bluffton and Ossian are out on runs, then that truck comes
Backs
up
it up,
into
yeah.
Bluffton to cover the rest of the county. That's where the 3 trucks play an important role in providing coverage.
Makes sense.
I think, Rick, you might mention to the council the issues you've been dealing with in the past, especially 2-3 years with paramedics and the.
There's a national paramedic shortage. There's a huge paramedic shortage in Northeast Indiana. Right now, as of today, I have 2 full-time paramedic openings. I can't fill. We put ads out, we put all over Facebook, there's just no applicants. Lutheran and Parkview's grabbing a bunch. New Haven Fire is expanding. Northeast and Allen County is expanding. Those are, they offer pensions. So when you have a fire department offering a pension, people are going to those places where 20 years and you're out. It's hard to compete with that. The job market's getting very tight, prices are going up. We are continuing raising our rates to compete with everybody else. You've all seen probably in the news, Fort Wayne City, Fort Wayne Matraw is having some huge major problems. Their response times are astronomical. 20, 30 minutes for an ambulance is not uncommon in Fort Wayne. For the past 12 months, our average response time to Wells County is 7 minutes, 36 seconds. That's what we're running. And that's pretty good. I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
Rick, do you mind talking a little bit too about the fact of how you're transporting more and more people? They're not just always coming to the hospital here. It's causing you some.
We spend all day, every day in Fort Wayne. The majority of our transports out of Wells County, whether it be a transfer out of the hospital or a 911 call, is going to Luther. That pulls us out of the county on average 2 hours at a time. To get up there, drop them off, and get back. If we go to Bluffton Regional, it's a 15-minute transport, we're back in service in 5 minutes. Going to Fort Wayne, you're looking at 2 hours. And we got 2 or 3 trucks at a time, all in Fort Wayne at the same time. In which case, we bring Adams over to cover. They're getting busy as we are. It's getting very, very tight to provide adequate coverage because we spend all day in Fort Wayne. The majority of our patients are getting diverted, if you will, from Bluffton Regional to Luther. They're full, they're busy, they don't have the specialties that they used to have, so we're taking everybody north. Yeah, that's an all day, every day thing.
Thank you for all you're doing.
Yeah, very challenging.
Yeah.
Very challenging.
Sounds like it.
I see a lot, and maybe it's just when they're coming in, a lot I'm from southern part, so a lot coming, I'll pass the ambulance a lot of times coming. It's not like they're on a run, they're coming up to Bluffton. Do they mostly just come to Bluffton for taking part in, if the other ambulance is on a run?
Yes, that's the majority of what they're moving. If the Bluffton truck, the way our system operates, makes a run in the city limits of Bluffton, nobody moves. If a second run would come in right then the Ossian truck would take it. If that Bluffton truck gets a run out in the county somewhere, that's going to make them out of service longer. Then that south truck comes up to cover the Bluffton area while the Ossian truck stays north. Also, if that truck is on a transfer, is up in Fort Wayne, that south truck comes up and is covering then the Bluffton area as well as the southern part of the county, which keeps the Ossian truck covering the north part of the county.
I know when I worked at Southern Wells, there was 2 times the ambulance was not available, and we had called the ambulance, and it was over 20 minutes till they came.
The run you're talking about, I looked into it. It was a car semi-accident with a party pen, and we had all 3 trucks at the same accident scene. And that doesn't happen often, but when it does happen, it pulls us all out to get somebody back in.
We were fortunate to have, the volunteers that's around, the paramedics that's around in the area, and they can come sometimes.
Right.
I know the one run, they were there before the ambulance was there quite a while, so,
Right.
that does help.
Happen. It does
We do
happen.
have people out in the country that are, or out in our area that are helpful in those ways, so that's very, very helpful too.
Okay. Thanks, guys, for the
Yes,
update.
thank you so much for
Appreciate it
coming.
very much. Have a good evening. All right, Roy. We'll do the county farm sale approval first.
The county farm sold for more than $50,000, so any sale has to be approved by the county council. So I'm here for that. I think I've already papered you with copies of all the contracts and a copy of the ordinance. That ordinance was revised because track 3, which was a building site, we didn't have a description because we didn't have time to get it done before the sale, and if somebody bought 2 and 3 and didn't want to sell off, we wouldn't need it. So anyways, it's since been surveyed. So the legal description for both 2, because it's the last exception in 2, and 3 have changed. But other than that, it's what you already seen. So
do we need a motion for that or anything?
That's the resolution number.
What is the number?
Okay, the resolution is 2021-25. It's a resolution approving the sale of the Wells County Farm by the Board of Commissioners. Oh, this is the Commissioners.
sorry?
By the Board of Wells County Commissioners, but it's signed by you.
Okay,
Yes.
so we just need a motion to,
The sale was
Approve
by
the
the
resolution.
commissioners, the
yeah,
ordinance is approval by council.
so we're approving this. So, need a motion.
I'll make a motion to, that the council will approve the sale of the Wells County Farm with ordinance 2021-25.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion second. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Regional Sewer District, Mark and Nate. Guys are up. Save that.
Board up here. Appreciate it. We got a number of other people that are probably gonna sit up here. We got Ryan LaFell, the choice one, the design engineer. We have Ryan Bennett, which is your county, I'd say sanitarian, because that's just the language I'm used to. I think environmental health specialist. And then you got a board member, Leon Burning. Trent Booger's actually stuck around. He's the accountant for the RSD. Andrew Stoller is on the board as well. And Mark Berry, attorney for the board. So appreciate you hearing us again. I think you've seen the resolution that was drafted and through Roy and Mark for the extension of the line of credit for the RSD to move forward with phase 2 of our work. That'd be for the Craigmill Sewer. And then with that, I guess I'll turn it over to Mark. I'll talk a little bit less because I'll start coughing.
I don't have a whole lot to say, but I think everybody understands, why we're here and what's happening. So Roy and I went back and forth with that resolution, and Roy had some good edits to that. And so the good news is SRF, is it Camille Minor at SRF, we've been trying to get them to send this money back, and so they approved it last week.
Yeah,
Was it
here.
last
November
Friday?
30th was the date they approved that.
Okay, so we're saying, where's the check? You approved it, but where's the money? So apparently, I thought it was gonna be here by this meeting, but they're saying it's gonna be sent on the 9th. I don't know if that's gonna be wired, Lisa, if they would have to have wiring instructions or direct deposit. I mean, it would be nice to have them just wire it rather than send a paper check, but I don't know, so. But it should be showing up.
I'll forward you that email when we talk to them since the approval's in the works, so.
So some of the difficulty with funding the district, and I think that we had a board prepared a letter to send out to all of you to kind of explain, kind of history and so forth. But, the difficulty is you get the cart before the horse, and you've got to have money up front to hire accountants and engineers and consultants and get out there and go after the money that SRF and the state of Indiana is trying to get rid of and that they're trying to give you. So the landscape, and we talked about this before, but the landscape and the funding of these types of projects in the last couple of years has taken a dramatic change in terms of how much money they're willing to loan or give for these types of septic elimination projects, and it's quite extraordinary. So, you know, the board was able to apply, as you know, and received the $5 million SWIFT grant, and obviously, you know, they're hoping that some of the $2 million from ARPA funds may be used from the county to help offset the need to borrow. Obviously, the district doesn't want to borrow any more than it has to try to keep rates stable and to pay for operations, because until you have enough customers and you have enough revenue coming in, that's their only way to raise money, other than seeded funds or grant dollars or things such as ARPA money for infrastructure. So, you know, I think we've mentioned before, we feel like we've got a great relationship with the city of Bluffton, and they're working with the sewer district, and we're working with them. And this, in particular, this project for Craigmill is really being done in cooperation with Bluffton and what they're doing with their sewer interceptor project. So that seems to be the next logical step. We thought, and kind of a lot of the signals were, we thought that the board thought, and I think all the consultants thought, including Baker Tilly and, you know, bond counsel, from what they saw, they thought that we would get more money than we did. Not to say that $5 million isn't a lot of money, it is, but they thought we would get even more. And because you got $6.6 million last year, but as it turns out, and I think I mentioned, there were 3 sewer districts that had applied for a lot more funds, like Wells did, and all 3 of those, everybody got $5 million, $5 million, $5 million. But what they're indicating is, in their notices to us, is we're only giving you 5 this year, but reapply right away next year, and we're gonna give you another chunk and another chunk. And so it looks like they're going to roll this out over.
Are those other chunks for the same projects or new projects?
Well, for the projects that the sewer board has already identified needing to be done, that they.
Right, I know you've identified
Yeah.
more, but I'm talking about like the Craigmill.
Well, Kingsley
Can you get
Thompson.
more for that?
Well, we wouldn't be able to necessarily go back. Each project would have to be able to stand on its own. And so
Okay.
what SRF is doing is they're encouraging us to piece the projects out into smaller bite-sized chunks. And so we're gonna have to go back to them when we go for the next phase, is look at what options we have. One of the things that came up for us that the RSD is gonna have to hear at the next meeting is there's another area there's septic violations that we've been notified of. And so I know about it, it's gonna go before the RSD board, and the health department's gonna ask the RSD to look at another area that's a clear and present issue, and they're gonna want us there. They essentially asked us to try to push another project into the works that we've looked at before, but needs to be addressed again. So it's gonna, there's certainly the need, and I think we won't be able to go back for Craigville for more money, but what it's gonna do is it's gonna allow us to do the next project and add the customer base to help to maintain that stability. It adds to your ability to divide that overhead expense across kind of just more users.
Well, it allows for economic growth along those lines as well.
Absolutely.
Whether it be a neighborhood or businesses or whatever the case may be.
Well, obviously, property owners wanting to subdivide and talk about additional home structures and stuff.
Right.
Feel that housing and everything else kind of together this too.
Right, so this is an economic development issue as well.
So,
How many homes with Craigville are you expecting to pick up when you're done?
So 130 with the Craigville system. So the Craigville's 130. If we could have gone to do Toxin and Kingsland, I think the total between the two of those was only 170. Looking to Ryan, because he was the one that did all the numbers for those. It's just unfortunately the 170 cost more than the other. So when we divided it out, and just so you're aware, I've recently received utility permit applications for road cuts from the design engineer working with the city of Bluffton for
the River Terrace area or Country Club Estates that we're looking into doing that project. It was one we studied. The city is moving forward on that. I think they're having a public hearing on that tomorrow night. That's what that is. So the city, I mean, this cooperation, what this done has actually spurred the city of Bluffton to invest a significant amount of money into their projects. Our Craigmill project is part of a much-needed interceptor project for the city of Bluffton. That's the Dustman Road Interceptor. That's a massive infrastructure investment by the city of Bluffton. So between the two parties, I think the city of Bluffton is actually doing all sorts of infrastructure that they couldn't have done without partnering with the RSD. It's actually kicked, I think, Bluffton and Wells County into a new gear as far as infrastructure investment and what we're going to be prepared to allow in these areas.
So what's you guys' ask tonight? I mean,
I think tonight, all that's really up on the agenda is asking you to approve that new resolution, which renews the line of credit, and upon the district's payment down on the existing line on the notes, and the district would pay the interest on those notes, and then could issue a new note up to that amount, and then would borrow that to pay for engineering so we can do Craigville, utilize that $5 million grant money and get that project going, go to bid. And then, when that closes out, then obviously they would apply for reimbursement again to pay back the county on the rainy new homes.
And that's pretty much the way we're set up right now, right, Roy? I mean, that's
As
how we talked about.
I wasn't here at the last meeting, but my understanding of the concern council had was the resolution was, well, instead of applying what you receive to the note, you'll just give us the interest and we'll keep the principal.
Carry the principal.
My problem with that is, that's not what the deal was.
Right.
And the deal was, if you get, say if you've got $500,000, if you used all your line of credit, you used $500,000, and RSD gets a check for $425,000, of which 25 is interest, I say, take the 25 to pay the interest, and the balance reduces the principal on the line of credit, which if you've got another project, you can loan out again on a new note.
Just take another note.
It's really the same thing. They get to continue to use the money, but you're not using a note that's by its own terms is expired because it's more than 2 or 3 years old or whatever the note said.
And that's there's 3 notes out there now, so you just be paying
Three
those
notes
notes.
totaling
Whatever the
500,000.
2, however it works out to where.
Yeah, there was three notes, and it was a 2-year term with those notes to be paid whenever the district received reimbursement.
So
The first note was $200,000, and that was in July of 2020. Second note was in October of 2020. The third note was for $100,000, and that was in January of 2021 this year. And so, obviously, the money that we're going to get by the 9th, or hopefully, in the mail, checks in the mail, would pay off those first 2 notes in full, and the third would be paid down 3/4, and then the district could, pay the interest, and then submit a note, get our engineers paid, and go to bid.
But the new note would only be for the amount that you've just paid back, wouldn't be for another full 500, would it?
No, it would be only up to whatever.
the 500.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you've got 3 notes, so.
But we have 3 notes here, but they're not paying all 3 off. They're only paying off
Depends on
2
how
and
much you
part
got.
of
Yeah.
So they'll still have owed us, let's say it's $30,000. So all they're gonna be eligible for is another $470. They can't go all the way back up to 500, right?
Well, they could go up to 500.
But then they
on
owe
the
us
new note,
60,
but-
well, not a new note, right, but yeah, the 470 plus the 30 they already owe us. I wanna make sure we don't get in this habit of where we got 500 and they only pay back 470, we do another 500.
Yeah.
470, now we're 60 grand behind the
Then you're in
curve
the loan agreement.
that we haven't been paid back
The
yet.
500
That's what I wanna
is-
make sure.
The 500 is the total amount outstanding at any one time.
Perfect, okay, that's what I wanted to make sure, when I was doing the math, I wanted to make sure we weren't, okay.
So in theory, we're just continuing the same process.
It's turned into
originally.
500,000.
That's
So
what I was joking.
what this does is this takes the line of
Yeah.
credit,
Yeah.
the resolution just changes the way the line of credit works to make it more of a revolving loan, so that because they're contracting the time period between these grant options, they're encouraging us to go after phase. It makes it very difficult for us to be project ready or shovel ready without having that flexibility, so.
Yeah, they're essentially, you're in a situation where they're encouraging you to apply for projects for new money for projects when you haven't even got the other project done yet.
Can you give us a brief update on the Murray and Liberty Center projects? There's a lot of activity going on up by
Right, I
Murray.
can't.
where I
I'm
live.
glad to see more activity, actually.
Yeah, there's a lot.
The last notice that I received from LA Brown is that there's now multiple crews from VTF on different phases of the project. I think as many as 4 different crews working now. So actually VTF is going to be in attendance at the next RSD meeting next Monday night. They're essentially outside the bounds of their agreement with us as far as time frame for completion. They're supposed to be done by now.
When was substantial
So the
completion?
substantial completion was in November of this year,
Okay.
mid-November. So they have requested an extension, and the RSD board is going to hear that extension request. I expect there to be some
Is this
discussion.
their
as
first
far as-
request for this?
Yes, so first formal request, and so they're going to be in attendance, and there's some discussion amongst the board members on how they want to either agree to the extension, how much time they'll allow VTF. I think they're justifiably due some extension because of some hardships in getting access, but I'm glad to see that they're taking it seriously by attacking some of the project.
I assume there's
So,
a penalty in this contract?
there is penalties in the contract, and if they determine to execute those penalties, then there might be more of a fight that goes on. So we'll try to be cool heads about it all, because we wanna work with them and finish it up versus trying to have a real fight. That's not helpful for completion of the project.
Well, and I've looked at their request, and it's very detailed, and they've given some really, good reasons why things have happened the way they have. And so there were significant material delays, there's no doubt about it.
Now, is Liberty Center still?
Liberty Center is probably the furthest behind. Murray is the first.
Really, they haven't done
along.
anything.
What do we do?
No, from Murray.
I have a motion
The
here.
incentive
Center.
Because I go through their valve all the time.
Yeah, excuse me. So,
I mean, I can now.
Right.
yeah, they'll be
Yeah,
around.
that's what.
They were
the road-
working on the west side.
All right, does council have any more concerns with what's going on here? And Roy has,
I'm happier.
is our
Yeah.
watchdog on
I am
this.
too.
And
One thing Mark and I talked about that isn't in the ordinance, and I remind you in my email when I did review the previous resolution, was don't forget you've got the ARPA money that is set aside, but that has to be, council and commissioners have to agree on the specific use and then appropriated by council. So I'm just saying that to the extent that the council is concerned about depletion of the rainy day fund, I told Mark, if you've got 2 million there and that's supposedly the check will be in the mail for that, 2.7 in May or June, but when that comes,
We could use that
in
money
in
instead of
theory,
the
if
rainy
you were
day money.
concerned about rainy day, you could say, okay, we want to transfer $500,000 to replenish the rainy day,
Right.
not pay off RSD's note,
Exactly.
but put it in the rainy day fund to bring that up, and then you can decide whatever else you want to do with.
And we
the
could almost
remainder.
create some sort of a lending fund with
Right.
that then, right? With that,
Well, depending on what they had, when Nate talked to the commissioners about it, is we'd like a fund for seed money. If we gotta provide 20% for some project, it would be nice to have that money there for that. But
because for
whatever they
Craigmill,
can-
you don't need the whole 2 million, right? Or is that the way I
Well,
understood?
part of what they're looking for in their initial agreement is they were trying to get us for the SWIFT grant to commit to upwards of doing all 6 project areas. And so I think that they're softening that position because there's no way that we can commit to
That's on the 5.
$17 million.
Right.
Because they wanted, well, if you want the 5, then you're gonna commit to doing up to $17 million of other funding. Well, there's no way that the board's willing to do that. So I think what's gonna likely end up happening is to get the 5, we would need 2. We would build Craigmill and design as many of the other areas and then say, these are projects that are shovel-ready, they're funded, they're ready to go. We need reimbursement for work that's been done, and we want to see what grant money can be done to do the petroleum, the Ricebird, Toxland, Kingsland, and this other area that's been brought to my attention at the health department meeting.
So you're thinking you would need the whole 2 then? At this point, it's
At least,
possibility.
what we'll have to do is when we get into May and we actually look at.
Yeah, we haven't got the money.
We haven't got the money, so I don't want to argue
Yeah,
about
yeah.
how much we need to do that. we'll be able, with this line of credit, we'll be able to move forward, go to bid with Craigmill, figure out what the bids come in. I mean, that's the biggest thing. We're working off of engineers' estimates. We don't know where the market's gonna be. So a lot of that'll get finalized when that bid comes in, where we're at, and we know roughly what our soft cost expenses are for that. So we'll be ready at that time because we'll have to close on phase 2 about the time you're receiving that money.
Right.
So it's actually, a lot of that stuff times fairly well. So we'll definitely be back with some real bids in the next 2 months or so, and to try to hash out how we want to try to plot forward the progression of the sewer district in some of these areas.
And I think based upon what we saw this year, I think it's a lesson to not try to not get over the front of your skis.
Exactly.
You know, let's take these things in reasonable increments. You don't want to try to be doing 2 or 3, 4 project areas at once. You know, maybe 2. Other than that, I think you slow down because the funding source is not guaranteed. It's like trying to hit a moving target. You know, it was 6.6 last year. This year, they're sending signals, oh, it's going to be more. Well, then it's less. Well, what's it going to be next year? You know, and so I think we got to slow down a little and look at the project areas that are the low-hanging fruit first, the ones that are going to generate the most revenue based upon connection costs, and then you take on these. When you get into these tougher ones, hopefully you're in a better situation financially that you can afford to do it without borrowing a bunch more money.
That's very wise.
Okay, so we have on the table, Resolution 2021-26. Let me just read the title. It's a resolution of the Wells County Council approving an extension of the line of credit and loan of funds to the Wells County Regional Sewer District. I'm ready for a motion. Anybody like to make it? We have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We're good on it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in.
We hope to have more. We hope to have good news in the spring. So, all right. Thanks,
good.
Okay.
Yeah, show me the money. Checks in the mail.
Okay, we have some miscellaneous business. We have a Purdue Extension contractual agreement.
We sign this each year. It is for the extension officers that we pay from the county budget. We pay Purdue for part of their salary. And this is for 2022, and the amount is $113,350, which is in the
So we don't need a
extension budget.
motion for that, do we?
Yes.
We do need a motion? Okay, we need a motion for that.
Motion to. Oh, sorry.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next is the Interlocal Engineering Services.
Okay. A number of months ago, the county and city talked about providing engineering services to the city. And the issue was, by statute, the county engineer can only enter into an employment agreement with the county, or 2 counties. But it says the county executive, in this case the commissioners, can authorize and direct the county engineer to provide highway engineering services to a municipality within the county. So the premise is that the county engineer remains a county employee, but the city would agree to reimburse the county for any expenditure it had for the county engineer's services related to the city project. Okay? So I finally got it cleared by Lisa, so didn't have to go through Trent, but
So in essence, the engineer doesn't get paid more, just gets paid by different entities.
he still gets paid by the county.
By the
At
county.
his normal hourly rate, including benefits. But we need, according to the auditor, we need a separate line or category so that we know of what he is paid, how much is related to city services.
And that just comes back to the county.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then they'll reimburse
With his
the county with that.
So it's
And
not
Lisa says-
necessarily split down the middle then, right?
Oh, no,
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 not at all.
no.
Yeah,
This gets tracked.
It's supposed to be a total non-expense to the
Gotcha.
county.
gotcha.
They, we pay the county pays the engineer, and then the city reimburses. And so we got, okay, besides that, we still got the employer's part of FICA and all that turf and
Yeah.
what have you. So we think we've got that handled, but then Lisa also says, well, if he's gonna be paid more than the salary ordinance, you've got to amend the salary ordinance to the extent it would be anything this year. We don't have a contract signed yet, so may not, but we need possible amendment to the salary ordinance for 2021 and 2022.
And the only thing we have to do in the salary ordinance is take his wage out and reference his commissioner contract for Wells County, and then the interlocal agreement. We don't have to put an amount in there.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Well, if you need an amount,
We don't need an amount.
then you could put one, but it's hard to predict
What it will
because
be, yeah.
the theory is the county's gonna receive its services and all the work's gonna be done. This is time that he has indicated he can spend for the city and still
Do
do
it on
all his
Sundays.
county work.
I'm just.
Nights and weekends.
They just hear just.
He's got a big S on his chest.
Right, so, if he's at a Board of Works meeting and they meet during the day, it's time he'd otherwise be doing on county work.
Right.
So we're not gonna pay him twice.
Twice.
He's gonna have to do the nights and weekends or
Yeah.
whatever. And we know, because he turns in his hours, so if he works 10 hours for city-related services, we'd hope to see 10 hours more than what his typical average bear hours turned into the county is. Get that right?
And this will take a couple of years, right? For
Well, the
even when
city has
construction
been
starts.
attempting to hire their own engineer. And I think they're struggling in trying to find somebody, an applicant for that. So the request came to me to, hey, could you sign a utility permit and sign and stamp a utility permit for us? The problem is that I can't take, I mean, even if I tried to do that, one, it was plain stamping, and two, I'm not allowed to take any money from any entities within the county.
Yeah.
It'd be in violation of the state statute of my agreement with Wells County, so that'd be unethical. So the only way to do this as a favor to the mayor and try to assist in some of the roles, the assistance that they're looking for, is to work through the county to find some sort of an avenue.
So this isn't necessarily County Road 200 South then?
Oh,
Okay,
no,
okay,
this
we're
is
talking all other
specific
things
to
too as we go.
other issues. So part of the conditions that I wanted to see was, one, that I wasn't just at the beck and call of any department head in the city. The only entities that I would have really any direct contact with would be the mayor and the board of works. So those would be the only essentially three people that would essentially have any sort of contact with me as far as making requests, and it's very narrow. And even in that agreement, there's areas where if I feel that it's a conflict of interest, that I can refuse, I have the authority to refuse to do it. And if I've got predetermined responsibilities with the county, then I can defer attending this. This is only at the grace of the commissioners to do that, and as a favor to the mayor of the city in the interim. I don't see this being a 10-year agreement or a 5-year agreement. I think it's set up right now. My goal would be is to assist the mayor until they can find a more
And
permanent
if
solution.
they find somebody, then.
They need to find somebody, or I can help them establish a structure that will make it a little easier to do that. I'm willing to help do that as long as it doesn't drive me insane, and then that would be one of the first extra activities that I would look to try to get out of helping it.
It's my understanding these were relatively small projects for which they do need an engineer's guidance, but not a big project that they would hire and have the engineering services as part of, like the sewer extension.
There's no amount of hours that you're committed to at any one time, correct?
This is just essentially.
If you don't have the time, you're not gonna do it.
Yeah, correct. So the only thing that would be kind of regular that they would like to see is that I could attend their board of works meeting, which start at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. unless I'm staying till, because we start at 7 at the highway department, they've been doing their time. Usually I'm walking out of one office, I'd be walking over there outside of the typical time for the counties.
So Royce, since the resolution references the mayor's office quite frequently in it, do I need to abstain from voting on it?
I don't know, I think you've been emancipated, so you're probably not under his direct supervision any longer as far as.
I have been, but I just want to make sure no conflicts or there's nothing in this that,
Do we
I
have
just
one
like
in
to make
front
sure.
of us?
I kind of hope you could just twist the mayor's arm and help us.
Do we have to sign, do we need
No,
to?
I was gonna say,
Okay, as long as you're okay with it, I just always want to make sure
Okay,
there's that.
Commissioners are the ones
Yeah.
that
Perfect.
agree to this. yeah.
So we don't have to have a motion on
We're just
that?
being
No, we don't need a
notified.
motion on this.
John,
Salary ordinance would though, wouldn't we?
Yes,
Whenever that's done.
yes.
Since
Okay.
the only thing council would be doing is amending the salary ordinance.
Right. Okay.
It's an agreement between, well, I think any interlocal agreement is not only signed by the executive, but also by the fiscal body.
Right.
So the drafts of the interlocal agreement would call for it to be signed by council as well as the commissioners.
So the one we have right here that you sent is just the one for the commissioners. The other one was like signatures on.
Do
Yeah.
you have more pages after that?
That's all I had. That's all I
only
was
have-
able to print off. Is what you sent over,
I might have it in my email.
I've got the email here, I can look real quick.
that's all I have of it. Unless there's more to it.
Let me see, I got the email.
Does it have a date on the front page in the upper left corner?
November 19th,
November 19th, 2021.
Revised November 19th, 2021.
I think I've revised it.
Yeah, the only
This
names on
week.
that agreement on the email were for the commissioners,
Yeah.
Gerber, Vanover, and Stringer. So, and of course the
So is there
mayor.
another one that's out there, or?
But again, we
Yeah.
don't need to sign the agreement, right?
No, no.
Because we're not approving it, that's up to the
Correct.
commissioners, we're just gonna do the salary ordinance whenever
Salary
it comes before us, so we don't have to do anything.
We don't do
Yeah,
that.
we'll get it.
Yeah, so we're,
Other than, if, when it's done, in order to
right, then we'll do it.
pay, we need the salary ordinance.
Right.
But that's my understanding from the interlocal agreement.
Okay.
And if it doesn't have, I think it's probably been added to since, because I know it's been changed because I changed it when Lisa told me to.
You're like telling everybody to do that, aren't you, Lisa?
Jeez.
All right.
Cracking the whip.
Are we good with
That's
this?
good.
This,
I think so.
I'll check it if I've got a
Subject.
more recent one, but that's my understanding is any interlocal agreement has got to be approved by both the executive and fiscal bodies. And if I omitted it from this, I know it's in on the other interlocal agreement that we've been talking about.
Yeah, the emergency one.
Okay.
okay.
Thank you, Roy.
Thank you.
Roy, while you're here, I'd just like to publicly
Yes.
acknowledge your service to the county and
Well,
all you've done for us.
I appreciate.
And
the-
thank you very much
Yes.
for
I
all that.
appreciate the kind remarks most of the time, and even sometimes the unkind ones, because they've been helpful, and it's always been a pleasure to appear before you and work for you.
If I understand it right, you're not retiring, you're just,
No,
just doing your own part, just kind of stepping
Well,
back from.
county work, when I last checked, county work is like between 70 and 75% of my time.
Time. So we'll.
Especially this
take
year,
it easy
probably.
now, yeah.
And compensated at a much lower rate than non-county work, but it's like, it would be nice to maybe stay at our condo in Florida for the whole month
Yeah.
of January and not have to check email every day or phone calls.
Well,
or
thank you for your service to the county. We appreciate it very much.
Yeah, thank you, Roy.
Thanks for the
We
opportunity.
recognize
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, transfer of funds with account sequence. I don't know what that is.
Last month when we did transfers, somebody made a comment about, it'd be nice if everybody didn't have to always come for
Oh, yeah, yeah.
transfers,
Mhm.
yes. So, I guess if you, there's a statute that would allow my office to do transfers, and I would do them the same way, but as long as they're in the same major classification, personal services, supplies, 1,000s, 2,000s, 3,000s, 4,000s. they could submit paperwork to my office and I could do transfers without coming to you, just for those. If they wanted to go from personal services to supplies, then of course they would have to come to you. If you want to, we can just put a notation in minutes and do that annually. Up to you.
I think I'm okay with that. I think it cuts down on a little bit of the transfer. I mean, these.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot this time that would have, but the last meeting, there was like 4 of them that
Yeah.
wouldn't have had to come.
Like this time, all these would still have had to come before us.
Right.
Would we still receive any notice of that, any
If
of
you
those
would like, I can
transfers?
do whatever you would like.
I think why don't you, I guess, my idea would be go ahead and handle them at your office. We still get copies of those. If anybody would have any issue at any one time, we could bring it up at that time.
And what Lisa could do is send you the additionals and the transfers that are gonna come to you, and then separately send what's gonna be done in our office.
Right.
Would that be all
I would be
right?
okay with that.
I could live with that.
Just transfers not
Yeah.
presented at
Yeah.
council.
What do you guys
I'd be
think?
okay with
Everybody
that.
okay with that?
That makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think it's
Yep.
taking a whole bunch off our plate, but
Right, right.
there's some that can happen, and
Okay.
let's just handle it that way for now, and then bring it up every year.
Yep.
In case
Yeah.
a different officer would want to change that policy. It's not a permanent thing. Okay, anything from the audience?
The one,
Got rid of everybody else.
oh, please.
I will need a motion.
We need a motion for that, Steve, for
Oh,
the
for the motion?
transfer.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll ask for a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, there we go, sorry.
That's it.
Gotta have it. Nate, you have anything else?
And I'll bug you about some of that stuff, that request that's gonna come before the RSD. I'll mention it to a couple of you after the meeting, so you're at least aware of what came up at the health department meeting last week.
I've heard, so.
Oh, you're aware of it. No good. I wanna make sure you're not surprised
No.
by what.
I don't know if anybody else is aware of what you're talking about, but, okay, all right. Any other thing, council? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Let's do it.
We are adjourned.
Hey, Nate.
Hey, we're under.